Welcome to the Real Estate Espresso podcast, your morning shot of what's new in the world of real estate investing. I'm your host, Victor Menashe. This is the weekend edition where we interview notable people from the world of real estate investing. Today is no exception. We have a great guest. Welcome to the show, Sean Dalfen.
Thank you.
Well, great to have you here. Now, Sean, you are in the logistics industrial space, specifically last mile. This is an area that's, and you're doing this at a very high level. Maybe before we dive into the details, perhaps give a little bit of your backstory and how you got to this point in your journey.
Sure. I'll give some backstory on the company. The company has been around for a lot of years. We've been focused exclusively on real estate since the early 90s. In the mid 2000s, I joined and ended up taking over the business, the fund business itself, growing that. And today, we own and operate over 65 million feet across the U.S. and Canada, but primarily the U.S. We have 9 offices throughout the country, and we're the largest privately owned industrial real estate firm in the U.S.
I love it. So this is an area that has gone through a lot of investment the last several years. I think about markets like Dallas that has seen tens of millions, maybe hundreds of millions of square feet built, a lot of it on a speculative basis. What is your focus today, and where do you see the market shifting? Where do you see the opportunity from a broad perspective, because you are in so many markets?
We get very local. I'll just start with our top-down, bottom-up approach. How we go about finding the real estate is first and foremost, we have our own proprietary last mile scoring system, which determines in a given market down to a zip code, what's the optimal last mile location, meaning a location where a tenant can reduce their either transport cost or employment costs or both. And once we select the top, call it dots on a map, in a given metro where we believe mitigates a tenant's cost, then we find the individual assets. So what that comes down to is it's very sub-market and specific location dependent. Earlier you and I spoke about Phoenix, and in the West Valley you have overbuilding and you don't have the same population density as you have infill. And so on the one side, we wouldn't be buying in the West Valley, but we would absolutely continue acquiring in, say, the Sky Harbor market. And the same can be said about Dallas or any other market. Dallas, we wouldn't be buying in South Dallas unless we were looking for powered land to do, data centers. But if we want good infill properties, what we're doing is going in, the GSW or DFW market or East Dallas, which is Garland or Mesquite. So it's really dependent, highly dependent on the submarkets itself. I can tell you today, we do focus heavily on the growth markets. That's been a big part of our strategy. That's the Southeast and call it Texas, in addition to certain select Midwestern nodes, which are not only good from a logistics standpoint, but also have very good labor and power dynamics.
One of the crossroads that I've held for a while in my mind as being an opportunity is San Antonio, where you've got the intersection of I-10 and I-35. It's really the first major center outside of one of the Mexican border towns where you could really focus on logistics. Are you seeing it the same way as well, or is that an area that you would say is also potentially overbuilt?
It's, again, very sub-market dependent, but I would not say San Antonio is a top-tier logistics market by any stretch. We own in San Antonio, and we own a ton in Austin as well. And it really comes down to the reason most tenants would want to be, if they would want to be in San Antonio, would simply labor costs tend to be lower. If not, they would probably be in, Hutto or Northeast Austin as well. So I would say neither Austin nor San Antonio are really top tier logistics nodes. However, when we're acquiring assets, we're not looking per se for top tier logistics nodes. We're looking for what are optimal last mile locations within a given market, because all these markets, whether they be San Antonio, Austin, or Dallas, or which is a major logistics hub, they all have local population base that one has to deliver to, and deliver to quickly in order to profit in the movement of goods. And so that's what we focus on. And so, yes, we would buy in San Antonio, and yes, we would buy in Austin, but no, I don't believe either of those two are top tier logistics hubs.
That makes sense. That makes sense. So when you are, without necessarily giving away your secret sauce, apart from ratios of population, what other metrics are you typically looking at that would say this is a good location? Is it proximity to freeways? Is it proximity to other distribution points? What would drive that decision making process?
Well, it is very much a secret sauce. We have a dedicated data analysis team that focuses on this and has for quite some time. And as a result, you would see that our rents are 8 to 12% higher than the competitive set. And really, it comes down to, at one point, there were over 200 variables we're using. And today, I would say there's probably in the 60s that we've determined are really critical things. Some of them you mentioned, they definitely have to do with the demographics and the proximity to highways, but it's not only the proximity to highways, but it's also factored in. There is your dwell time on different highways. Can somebody get on and off that highway quickly? How many drops can an average, e-commerce user do over the course of a couple hours? And there are all kinds of different variables that go into that, in addition to workforce analysis. And in the end, we have two scores that come up, but there's another scoring system that we use as well, and we overlay on that, and that is our conviction score. That's heavily dependent on AI, and what we've done in creating that, call it overlay, is we've used roughly 10 years of data from Moody's to Green Street to all kinds of other data sources, including proprietary data, and we've put it into our system, and we've said if we're going to invest $1 in a given market, had we done that in X period of time, how much would that dollar be worth today from a sales and leasing standpoint, in addition to layering in population growth and business movement, as well as supply side fundamentals. And so when you mix all those together, what you end up having is what's your best last mile score in a given market that reduces cost for tenants. From an investment standpoint, where should we be focusing our attention? Let's say we have these 10 deals that we're looking at. Where are we most likely to succeed? And so it's not the be all and end all, but we're way past the beta stage. And at this point, what it does is it allows us to know where to optimize our focus, because time is your, call it, most valuable resource, really.
No question. There's certainly been a lot of press around drone delivery. Walmart's experimenting with it. Amazon's experimenting with it. Do you see that as a disruptor in the marketplace, and would it affect your strategy in any way?
I see there personally being very little chance it's going to be widespread drone delivery. And the reason being is because it's disruptive. Nobody's going to like looking up and seeing drones buzzing all over the sky. It's just not something I see as viable. And the reason that's coming from a personal opinion, but it's coming from an opinion knowing that NIMBYism is a real thing.
Yeah.
If they don't want, call it best in class modern logistics centers that are bringing jobs and improving sites and bringing tax dollars to a given market, there is no way markets are going to really want drones flying overhead. That said, autonomous vehicles, I do think, are likely the way of the future, whether that be on a very, very local level where you have certain bots delivering the goods to locations, not necessarily your door, but drop-off spots, to autonomous vans, etc. I think that that's going to be the way of the future. Will it impact what we do? Absolutely not, because you still need to be very close to the consumer. So effectively what we're doing is buying locations in very supply constrained, pockets, that whether they're using a drone or whether they're using an autonomous vehicle, it's still a critical location because it's so close to that populace.
That makes a lot of sense. The other area that's seeing increasing automation, of course, is in the warehouse itself. We're seeing aisle widths shrinking because robotic vehicles can work with a shorter turning radius than a forklift operator. Is that impacting the design of your facilities at this point, or not yet?
You're seeing that a lot less in the area of last mile. You have certain companies, like our largest tenant, Amazon, who are far more sophisticated in terms of how they're going about and maximizing the use of space. But most companies are simply floor stacking. And so it's what we try to do is buy the most modern or build the most modern facilities in a given market. But what I can tell you is that the vast majority of the tenants aren't fully utilizing that space from I would call it the most technologically advanced manner. It's not the same in your bulk space, because we do have certain accounts that buy bulk within our company or build it. And that's far more sophisticated in terms of the use of that space. But the last mile is not the same. It's really the proximity to the end user and the ability to have, the functionality, whether it's a minimum of truck court depth or some level of clear height and bay width that allows modern robotics in some capacity to be used, that will help get a tenant signed up. But the reality is the tenants are often not likely using it in that manner. It just checks a box for the future.
Yeah, got it. And the other piece, of course, is that the incoming product, sometimes it'll be full load, sometimes less than load. How does that affect the design of your facilities? What are you doing differently to accommodate the logistics of maybe multiple different suppliers arriving at the same time?
I mean, really, look, as an owner, what we try to do is find buildings that, again, are the most flexible. So, to have, wide drive-in doors, if that's something that's important, well, we can do that for a tenant, or some of our facilities come with it, or to have, multiple paths of ingress and egress so that you don't get a traffic jam when there's all these different drivers at different periods of time. Well, that's optimal as well. But again, we're buying the facilities based on the best properties within key markets that are very supply constrained. So often you're dealing with what space you have. So it's the best of the best within this given area, but it doesn't mean it's optimized in every capacity. I mean, you look at markets like Miami, you simply don't have the land, and that's
Right.
all there is to it.
Yeah.
And so, or LA, or I can keep going, New York, etc. And so companies will design their use of the space based on that, based on this is what we got. It's the best of the best, but it's not going to be per se like somewhere on the outskirts of Dallas where you just have all this land and you can just make a best-in-class property in every way and have 180-foot truck courts and only 100,000 square foot buildings.
Understood. Well, Sean, if folks want to connect, if they want to learn more, what's the best way?
Best way is to go to our website, dalfen.com, dalfen.com, and if somebody is interested in maybe joining the team, I would email our HR team, and that'll be great.
Terrific. Well, Sean, great to connect. And for the listeners at home, definitely want to reach out to dalfen.com. The links will be in the show notes. And in the meantime, have an awesome rest of your weekend. Go make some great things happen. And we'll talk to you again tomorrow.